I found LaVar, especially in the 45-minute Facebook Live, to be occasionally outlandish, as we all know. He was often funny, made you laugh there. And he sometimes went very deep with me because the more I'm around LaVar, the more I believe he thinks that he can, as he calls it, speak something into existence. The more positive you are, the more you say it, the more your mind will sort of believe it and make it happen. So he's trying to will his sons to the top of the NBA. And in the end, I'm going to say this again. I always conclude this about LaVar. I think you're with me on this. I can't help but like him because he has true, deep love for those three sons.
He does.
Whew. And I also went a little deeper with him about his wife. And he did acknowledge, I said, you're a public figure now. This has become sort of fair game. But she had a stroke just before Alonzo played Kentucky in the, obviously, the NCAAs. And she's having a hard time. She's still in the hospital. And I think it's been hard on those three sons. And yet he wouldn't use that as a quote-unquote excuse that I thought was a very legitimate excuse for Lonzo's play against De'Aaron Fox in Kentucky, because as he was there in Memphis that night, Dad and the two younger brothers stayed in the hospital room with Mom. You don't think that would distract the kid? Come on.
Absolutely.
I mean, come on now, because they're usually all at the game, and then nobody's at the game, and he had a bad game. And yet, all LaVar, he kept going back to, well, he had a hamstring. I didn't see any hamstring pull. Did you?
No.
I saw De'Aaron Fox
just running circles around him.
Circles around him. So we went back and forth on that, and I don't think LaVar loved that. But the other odd thing to me about LaVar Ball is he's taken a lot of beating for averaging 2.2 points at Washington State, but when he was at Cal State LA or at the LA Junior College, he was a really good 6'6", 270-pound power forward basketball player. But moreover, what he's actually humbled to a fault about this. Do you realize he was an NFL football player? Did you know this?
I didn't. I heard he got what? He got drafted, or he was a free agent?
No, he had no football background in college. And he made 2 practice squads of the Jets with Pete Carroll as the head coach, and then he went with his tight ends coach to Carolina and was on the practice squad there. So he's practicing with 2 pro football teams every day, and they thought enough of him, they sent him over to London to play in the old World League with the Monarchs. So he played a whole season of tight end with the Monarchs. Well, that's pretty good. I'm not saying he was great, but that you'd have some respect for that, wouldn't you?
Of course,
so,
of course.
But he's humbled to a fault there. He doesn't want to play that up, which tells me he's not trying to preempt his sons and make himself the star of this. He definitely wants his sons to be the star. And he also projected their heights and weights. The middle son, who's going to UCLA next year, he projects him as a 280-pound, 6'6" shooting guard in the NBA. And I said, LaVar, that just doesn't happen. No shooting guard is going to watch my son. Oh, okay. And he's projecting Lonzo next year to go 6'7", 220. With the right nutrition, exercise, and fitness. And the young son, who's the entertainer, as he calls him, he says he's going to hit 6'8" and be 220-ish by the time he hits the NBA. So these are his projections. But then the final point was, I pushed and pulled and prodded about, give me some idea about the shoe sales so far. And I got nowhere. And it suggested to me, my takeaway was, I don't think they're going very well so far. Or he would have had something, he would have started to front run on that a little bit and say they're flying off the, so to speak, shelves, even though they're for November.
Skip, you and I both, I had one perception of him before I met him. And I told you once he walked off the set, I said, Skip, I like him. I said, he's authentic, he's real. What you see is what you get. And I don't have a problem it's not a problem for me that he's thinking outside of the box. He's saying that, yeah, I believe my son is going to be good, and instead of everybody profiting off of him, why can't he and this family profit off of him? He was in the design of the shoe. Everything you see on the shoe is all about Lonzo. So I don't have a problem with it. And you know what, Skip? I was thinking about it all last night. And I was laying around, and I told Katie, I said, Katie, you know what? She's like, what? I said, I'm gonna buy a pair of shoes. She said, what shoes? I said, those Alonzo Balls.
Good
She's
for
like,
you.
why? I said, because you know why I'm going to buy them? I said, because we see every group support their own. You look at the Asian community. They will support their Asian community if they're selling something or they're buying something. You look at the Jewish community. They will support them. I'm going to support LaVar Ball. Everybody's talking about, oh, he's up. I bet you 25 million Americans, if I were to go to their house, I bet you they got some form of reality show on DVR. He's a walking reality show. That's what he is, Skip. But I mean, you might not agree with how he's gone about it. Yeah, I don't like, the only thing I don't like about him, and I told him, I don't like the fact that you're writing checks that Lonzo has to pay.
I agree with that, but his retort to that is, I raised him to deal with this pressure.
Yes.
Because he'll laugh at this
Yep,
pressure.
that's exactly right. So you expect him to do what he did in high school, win a state championship, go to UCLA and be an All-American, and all of a sudden say, you know what, I made it here, I ain't gonna work as hard. He's like, no. His whole life was about getting to the NBA, and he knew he had to go to high school, he had to go 1 year of college, and so now that once he gets to his ultimate destination, you think he's gonna relax? No, he's gonna work even harder because he knows he's here, and he knows he needs to show up. So I don't have a problem with anything that he said, and we get so upset with him, but what's the difference between what he did and what Kris Jenner did for her daughters? You don't think they talk about them? But everybody got a problem with LaVar Ball. I don't have a problem with him. I'm proud of him. I believe he is a great father, and I know he's going through some trying times right now. You mentioned it. I knew that his wife was dealing with some medical issues.
It's serious.
It's tough. It's tough. 3 boys. Now you're mom and dad, and you got one of your sons getting ready to go to the NBA.
That's
another
correct.
one's getting ready to go to college.
Yep.
Another one's a rising junior, and you're still having to deal with, as he would say, mama in the hospital. That's tough on him. But I commend him because if you just talking to him, Skip, you would never know that he has all that going on behind the scenes.